There's a new Disney princess that is taking the internet by storm. We got a picture here. It is Dr. Frank Infurter. He has now joined the ranks of now Princess Leia, Snow White, Cinderella, and all of the rest that comes with the new acquisition of Disney of 20th Century Fox. And Zach brought up on Facebook a good point. Would Dr. Frank Infurter want to be called a Disney princess, or would he want to be the Disney queen? So I'm thinking Dr. Frank Infurter would go with the queen route myself. I am Brian Crawford. This is the River's Edge Radio Network, broadcasting live from Mr. Small's Theater. You can listen to us 24 hours a day with the best in Pittsburgh local music at riversedgepgh.com. If you want to communicate with the show, you can do so on the Facebook Live page, or you can hit me up on Twitter at rivertalkpgh. We have a good show today. It's the end of the year for me, in this program at least. This is the last show of the year. I'm going to take a couple weeks off after this, and then we will be back with more in January. So, to wrap up the year, I thought we would bring in a lot of really cool guests. I tried to compete with Michael Sorg in Awesome Cast, but I failed. He had like 20 guests in studio or something, including myself, and I have to give myself a big pat on the back.
Go for quality.
Because what's the go? Yeah, go for quality. Yes, exactly. I got to give myself a pat on the back because I was on Awesome Cast this past Tuesday, and I was 2 for 2. It's the second time in a row I've gone on the program, and my Awesome Thing of the Week was purchased on air by a listener because I have great taste. Just know, you're listening because you've got great taste. And if you listen 24 hours a day, then you've got the best taste in Pittsburgh, is all I can say. So, with the acquisition of 20th Century Fox and the new Disney princess, I wonder, in this debate about net neutrality, does it really matter anymore? Well, it matters to me because I own a small media company that they'll probably try to quash as soon as we start to grow. But with Disney buying up everything, are there really any options to haggle over anyways? That's the question, because they pretty much are wrapping up the entire entertainment industry. But net neutrality, we can kill them, the music. But net neutrality is, it is gone. And I will actually be working with some musicians in Pittsburgh and some other people in the entertainment online media community to raise money for someone. I don't know who yet, but it will be January 21st at the Acoustic Brunch. I am in communication with the ACLU to try to find out who the appropriate organization to raise money for, but we've decided to turn that Acoustic Brunch into a fundraiser to fund whoever it is that's suing the federal government to make sure that we can bring back the net neutrality laws that allow organizations like the River's Edge to grow and prosper and be a thing for the future, and something that isn't going to be quashed by dying old media companies that people are listening to less and less. So we've got a lot going on today. We have Joanna Lowe and Jeremy Papay in studio. They are here to talk about their group, Joanna Lowe and the Spoken Word.
Broken
Word. Oh, thank you.
See? Well, play on words.
I even have it written down right here, and I've been saying it, but I still, because I know of you with your Spoken Word, yes, which is fantastic, and I'm excited about this group. I'm excited to talk about that, and then I am also excited because we have Joshua over here, and I love that you put it in great. You wrote it on, great phonetics for me to read. We have Tarquinio.
Thank you, yes.
Right here. And he wrote a book called The Rogue Mountains. I was there for your big party, which was fun, out in the bookstore. And that was a great thing for the bookstore, too, because I did not know that they existed.
Oh, 9 stories.
And now I do, yeah.
Yeah, 9 stories.
And they just won an award, too, right? Best bookstore or something like that?
Oh, I don't know. But they deserve it because...
Well, they won an award from the city paper for Best Bookstore. I think it was this year. I know that because they had a big plaque on the wall that said Best Bookstore.
Yeah, okay. Well, yeah, they're neat and they're little, and they've got, just like every shelf has got great stuff on it. Quality, not quantity. Just
Very
like
cool.
your show.
Exactly. So, no, but I will say AwesomeCast is great quality. I mean, they bring me in as a guest, so they know what they're
Obviously.
doing. Yeah. No, but that's a great show. You can hear it every Saturday morning right here, 9 a.m. at riversedgepgh.com as well. And Joanna, you were on a few of Sorg's programs recently.
Well, I was on one of them on AwesomeCast for to promote and talk about Unhinged. I was there in his studio for Fishing Without Bait, and I mentioned that I was doing a hunt theater collaborative, like a hybrid. And he stopped me after the podcast, and he was like, I hear a lot of stuff, and I'm really interested. I have this podcast. I do awesome things. I talk about awesome things. That sounds awesome. Can you just stay and talk about that? So I finished one podcast. He asked me to stay on, and I went right into AwesomeCast. So that was great.
And it's funny because both of those programs air on this radio network. So, and Joanna and I have been talking forever about getting her into the studio, and then here she went on every other program that airs on this network.
Because I suck. Obviously.
No, it was great. No, it was funny. It just I saw you keep popping up. I'm like, she made it. It's kind of like Amy, who's another great musician in Pittsburgh, and she's got to send me her music for the stream, and I'm always telling her, you got to send me the music. You got to send me the music, and she's in the background during one of Jeremy K. Wood's songs, cheering. And I said, Amy, you cannot escape the river's edge because you are on the network cheering.
That was you.
Yes. I mean, it's undeniable because she's not only is she a great musician, but she's also kind of like the cheerleader in the Pittsburgh music scene.
She really is.
She is, and she's always out there supporting people, and she's you can always pick out her voice because she's very vocal to express her enthusiasm towards what other people are doing, so which is really cool. So, Joanna, you've got this new group. It is Joanna Lowe and The Broken Word.
The Broken Word.
Yes. So tell me about this. You've got a show on the 22nd from 7 to 9 at Club Cafe.
Club Cafe. The early show, so the entire rest of the night is free. People can go party on Carson Street if that's something that they're still into.
Well, I like this
too. Go to bed because we're all old.
Or go to bed like the rest of us.
Or go to work.
Oh,
like I got to do.
Or go to work. It is an early evening, but it is going to be packed full of amazing stuff. That's this coming Friday. I got it right this time. I've been performing in the city, as you know, with some of the most incredible musicians, and a few of us kind of wanted to take this step forward together to grow up and out. We're not just interested in music venues, but literary venues, sort of socialite, the higher, it's freaking spoken word. So it's
that's
more
what it is.
sophisticated.
It's spoken word poetry, and you're adding music to it.
And we're adding a core band to it, so we can grow and get to know each other together. Now there's opportunity that we've created for the specific band to do stuff, and now they are getting to know my work, that they are, instead of just improvising, they're creating music for specific pieces that we're rehearsing in order to do a show, like a real dig-in, bite-down show. And we're really excited to sort of reveal the band and reveal the beginning of our growth on Friday.
So does anyone else do anything like this with the spoken word added with the music? Because that's one thing. When you go to an open mic, and it's amazing to see you go up on stage and an entire band gets behind you while you're delivering your poetry. Yeah. And it's one of the most fascinating things to experience. And they both blend together so well, but I've never seen anyone else do quite that. Is that original to you?
Yes. Well, the thing is I don't know if you know this. I stumbled into this. I have a theater background and a writing background. I run a theater company and I'm a published poet, but it never even occurred to me to put the two together. And on one of the biggest nights of the year at Acoustic Cafe a few years ago, I messaged our friend Eric George and I was like, what if I read something? And he was like, yes. And I immediately, no. And he was like, yep, sorry, you're already on the list. And I'm like, no. And I said, well, no. I'm encroaching on your scene. This is the music scene. He was like, nah, people do this. Doesn't happen often, but people do this. And he's like, I'll be like a backup drum doing the beatnik stuff. And I have a bass. And I'm going, this is out of control. I can't. And he's like, sorry, see you then. And I showed up and I got dragged onto the stage. And for the first time performing for the music community, I performed a piece that we were doing for the show, actually. I performed a piece with a 4-piece improvisational jazz band. That's how it started. And people that had never spoken to me before came up and were like, I had no idea you did this. And I said, I don't. That's the first time. And they were like, sorry, you do this now. And it just didn't stop. And I kept being approached by musicians, asking if they could play, asking. And it felt like I had accidentally fallen down a set of stairs, and people kept asking me to do it again. So it was very strange, just like where I had to train to learn acting for the stage versus acting for film, finding my way into what works, what doesn't, where I need to cut out more time, where the music needs to take precedence, and I need to take a back seat and vice versa, and really the dynamic. And I had to really be sort of put in my place by the musicians going, stop being humble and direct us. We need to know what to do. Mm-hmm. So I started being comfortable asking for what I wanted, and then it became a really amazing conversation. And we wanted to make that conversation more sophisticated and more consistent, which is why we thought it was time to, after I've been doing this a few years, it was time to form a band.
Yeah, because you're really, even though you don't go up and sing, you are a staple in the music community in many ways.
Well,
people know who you are. Yeah. You go to different open mics and people immediately are like, oh, that's Joanna Lowe. So that's kind of a unique thing in a way, and I love the collaboration. It really does make a unique performance. And your theater background, I think, really lends to your spoken word performances, because you go to a lot of different poetry readings, and a lot of people, some people are very good at going up and presenting their poetry in a good way, but a lot of people go up with a little book and they just read, and they don't look up from the book the entire time. And when you go up, you're engaging and you're involved in a whole production almost. Even when it's just you by yourself, there's more that goes into it.
I mean, and that's always been one of my things. Like, I don't want to knock anybody, but Jan Beatty on prosody, it always pissed me off where people will read their very intense poetry like this. And I'm like, what? I don't know who taught them this weird rhythm with no emotion. And I write out of like guts and, blood, sweat, and tears. And I don't understand. If you're going to present a story, tell the fucking story. Yeah. So I believe in presenting that story. And I think the music only elevates it. And I feel incredibly honored. I've fallen into this, and it's been very strange finding the right way to present these things, because I don't have anybody that I aspire to. There's not, there's this one poet that does, there's nobody that I know that does this. So I've kind of, which has been really terrifying, but also incredibly exciting that we're carving our own path with this.
Well, I think that will also allow you guys a better opportunity to succeed, because I think one of the things, you could be the best at what you do, but if there's nothing that separates you from the pack, even if you are the best, you can somehow find yourself lost.
Get lost, yeah.
So I think having something that kind of sets you apart. We had Hank the businessman in a little bit ago, and he was saying, that he sometimes is almost like worried about that because he's got this persona and things like that. But I said, but that's what makes you stand out to other people. People remember you because of that niche.
Yeah.
So
I feel incredibly fortunate to have that niche, and I'm really excited to sort of finally, instead of going, this isn't a fluke, this isn't, to be like, all right, let's own this, and I'm thrilled to dive into it.
Well, who's all in the Broken Word? Obviously, Jeremy
on drums, Jim Barr on piano. Jeremy and Jim actually went to Duquesne together.
Okay.
Corey Drake on bass, and Brian Sproul on guitar. And we'll have other musicians as guests throughout other gigs, dependent on what our needs are. But this is the core group.
Very cool. Bill Huff posted on the Facebook page that he was wondering if you were drinking a Jones soda.
No.
She is not. She is drinking. She is drinking whoever is willing to pay us for those rights.
What do you think she is? Some sort of poet who comes out here and speaks like this?
That's
I do know.
right.
I do know one thing though. If you had the option, I guarantee you, if this was a thing, you would be all about it. You would drink it because it would be the best drink in the world. If Han's Funeral Home bottled their own soda, that would be with all of the embalming fluids and things like that. Maybe there was some kind of embalming fluid that was drinkable.
Drinkable and alcoholic?
And alcoholic. Yeah. I think that Hans would make a good blend, a very creative blend, and they wouldn't kill you with bad fluids because they are the only family-owned funeral home in Millvale, and they are known for their green burials.
Really?
They are.
Wow.
So I guarantee you, if they made a drink, it would be something that we would be thrilled to have on a bottle.
I would be thrilled
in
to
the
drink
studio.
It.
So that's what I figured. Yeah. So can you
call it corpse juice?
Well, yeah, corpse juice. That's probably the weirdest plug I've done for on Funeral.
That was amazing. I was like, where are you going with this?
Yes,
love it.
On Funeral Home is awesome. They're actually gonna be a stage at the Millville Music Festival.
No way.
This year. Yeah,
that's incredible.
Yeah,
but green funerals. It's a little deviation, but I was just through a series of other things. I was thinking about, well, what would I want to happen? And there's a whole thing, and it's even in one of my new pieces that we're doing in the show where it's about like donating my body to science and what you want to do. Like forget all of that. I mean, the really expensive funerals and putting all the money into that and on your family. Same with weddings. Like I just don't understand all of that crap. So do what you want to do and make it useful.
I agree. So you guys are going to be performing here at Club Cafe. What can we expect from the show and at the show?
Do you want to start by handling this?
We have Brewer's Row is going to open up, which is, remember I saw them for the first time at Thunderbird, I think a long while back.
Which should be coming back this year, isn't it? I believe.
I think so. I've heard that for a few. I've kind of lost track of where they are with that, but what a great venue. Brewer's Row is fantastic local band. They're going to kind of warm up the night. And then we're going to take it some new places that I don't think her pieces have been taken before, where we're not like, there's some aggression behind it. There'll be some noise behind it. There'll be a little bit more of a subtlety. Some pieces, kind of goes against the Pittsburgh grain, but there won't be 8,000 people playing at once. We'll do like breakout groups depending on what piece she's doing and the new material. We're kind of doing a lot of either new material or material that hasn't seen the stage
like
yet,
there's stuff that I haven't been comfortable putting out. And as soon as we had this band, I was like, you guys are the ones that I want to try this with.
So it's all starting from the ground up, which is great because I've worked with all these musicians like Jim, the fantastic keyboard player, great synthesizer player. Sproul, I was in a band, Chalk Outline Party with him for a while in the mid-2000s. Corey, I played in a few bands with him. Currently playing in a band with Mike Speranza with him that we're hoping to have our own little reveal at some point next year. But I'm pretty excited about it.
Now, is that the same band that Jeremy Kaywood is in as well?
No,
or is it a different one? Okay.
Mm-hmm. Which is also, man, that group's awesome too. I've heard some recordings.
Mike Speranza is like in how many bands? He's like in a million bands.
I think we have a competition going on, I think, between who can be in the most bands. No, have not been excited about, it's good to be in. I've done a lot of playing since I've been back off the road, but this one is like I'm actually in a band again, which is cool, which I haven't been able to use that term for a little bit. So
yeah,
I think cool. It'll rip your heart out while it melts in your face all at the same time.
Yeah.
So it should be a hell of a mess to clean up before the late show.
Well, I imagine it's going to be like a roller coaster, right?
And I kind of built the set to be exactly that, because we are going to some really intense. And like, you've seen my stuff. I don't usually pussyfoot around a bunch of stuff. But I've trusted these guys to go like, okay, let's go really funny. And then I'm sorry. Here. I mean, after one like brand new piece, I was like, I'm sorry, this is going to be really horrible, like really terrible. And afterward, Jim just went, wow, that hurt. Like, and I was like, I know, thank you for being in the room with me. We're going to do this together. I need you. So we're swinging for the fences, both for like some humor, but some of the most intense stuff that we needed some thoughtful contemplation about, some really good planning as far as instrumentation. But the fact that we're in a room and everybody has a voice. People are like, I want piano to shine here. I think bass should take over here. I think it should just be.
So it's very collaborative, the way that you put this together.
Yeah, I can come in and be like, well, this is how this sounds. And then everybody starts talking. Well, which instruments would best suit this? And maybe this instrument can fade out and this one take over. And maybe he needs to write a line of music for this. And so there's, I'm breaking out 2 original pieces and a lot of lesser known or stuff that hasn't been played out much on Friday because I think it's time and we've got the right group to do that.
Very cool. I'm excited. You've got a piece for us tonight. Can you?
I can.
Can you? Awesome.
I can.
I'm excited to hear this.
I'm wondering, should I? Oh, well, I don't want to be crass, but I also don't want to blow the wad for the show. Should I do something else that we're not doing on Friday?
Well, do whatever you think will work, because it would be cool to hear something, but we do want to entice people to come out on Friday. So maybe we can, a Joanna Lowe classic. That you know what I really, really like.
Okay, please, I want to take a request.
The one with the bird in the winter.
That's perfect.
Oh, I love that one.
It's perfect.
It's a hit.
That's one of my favorite.
Is that a hit? Is that one that people request? Okay.
Well, it's interesting. Sometimes the pieces that really speak to my thank you, Josh, to my guts. I don't want to put that in front of your book. I think I come in really enthusiastic. And then other times I really have no idea which pieces are going to grab. Mm-hmm. And this one has become a community favorite. And from the very first time, and it's because, I'm not generalizing gender, but anyway, men tend to like, concepts, stories, plots. Women tend to go very emotional. And this kind of does both. And it was based on, this was during the polar vortexes when we had 2 of them, and I was walking to work.
What year was that? It
was 2 and 3 years ago, I think, right?
That's right. Yeah, I worked at Plantscape at the time, and I remember I was so angry because they told us that we couldn't go to work because it was too cold, yet there were people working outside on the road.
Yeah.
And I was like, it's not that cold.
Right.
But it was very cold.
It was incredibly cold. They were talking on the news about, do this and this and this, or you will die.
Yeah.
It was this huge crisis, and because I'm stubborn and Scottish and whatever, I was like, I'm gonna keep walking to work. And my mom's like, don't, Joanna, you're gonna die.
So you're like me. You're like, I gotta get it done.
I'm just gonna walk to work almost 2 miles. And I'd put on, and wrap up in my 5 different layers. And I can do this because no one will tell me not to do this. And I remember during this polar vortex that there were no people out. And there weren't even animals. It was like even the animals were like, fuck this weather. I'm burying under, nobody was there. And this was, I wrote this about my experience walking to work.
Wow. I did not know that's what this was about.
So that's the background. I wrote it during the polar vortex, and when things suddenly turned cold again, and everyone's like, because I hate cold. My body responds badly to it. It's painful to me. I immediately thought of this piece.
Very cool. Well, it's actually a nicer night tonight. Yeah. It's not as cold, but it was bitter cold the last few days. So
very much so.
So let's hear this. This is great.
It was the kind of cold that caused irrational thought. People were afraid of looking out windows, burst into fits of hysteria at the thought of driving, and climbed into ovens when it was suggested that they step foot outside. I was walking across a bridge, focused against the cold as if my will alone could make me impervious. And the river swam in chunks below me. The wind was a clean, smiling razor, and I was doing my utmost not to be sliced apart when a single bird flew out over the water beside me, floating, hovering over the frightening ice below. And I was astonished, watching his feathers ruffle in air that was frozen solid, a single butcher's knife. As if no one was afraid of dying, as if the city wasn't in a panic, as if I wasn't defying logic and science, a miracle, by walking across a bridge. And that bird was weightless, unaware of the fact that the most advanced species on Earth was imposing their existence with their weight and their heat, hidden in furnaces and underneath blankets of fire, crying, "Mercy! Mercy!" And yet, this bird flew into the razor's edge. A razor among razors. And I thought, I wonder if he knows how cold it is. I wonder if he's thinking, fuck, it's so cold, like the rest of us. But he didn't swan dive into my hood for cover. He just kept floating on the edge of the wind that was carving my cheeks from the rest of my face. And I was so jealous. When faced with the question of whether I'd prefer invisibility or flight, my answer has always been to fly. Until I watched this bird, and I felt envy. If I was to be a bird, I want to be that bird. I want to deny nature, contradict the fearful, live in spite of death. I want to face the blade without feeling. I would choose to be impervious. I would choose to be a razor.
Woo. All right. Joanna Lowe of Joanna Lowe and the Broken Word. December 22nd, Friday, 7 to 9 p.m. at Club Cafe. Thank you so much, Joanna.
Thank you, Brian.
So, thank you, Jeremy. You guys are welcome to stick around. We're going to roll into the weird news in just a couple minutes. We're going to take a quick break. And when we come back from that break, we will roll into the weird news. And then we've got Josh up after that. We're going to talk about his book, which is out. And I was there for the release, The Rogue Mountains. All of that and more right here on Pittsburgh's Voice for Local Music, The River's Edge.
Hey, it's Mike Sasson. Guess what? You used to love us at 10. You're going to love us even more at 9. It's me. It's Alex. It's funniness. It's guests. It's all sorts of me yelling into microphones only 1 hour earlier. It's exactly what you need at 9 o'clock. It's like a shot of adrenaline. It's the Mike Sasson Show, now starting at 9 o'clock on Tuesday on the River's Edge, a new kind of radio.
All right, I, Brian Crawford, am Pittsburgh's #1 weapon, fighting against the Mon Monster, saving the city of Pittsburgh from total and absolute destruction every week with not one, not two, but 3 weird stories, because everyone likes a weird story, including the beast in the Monongahela. The weirdest story of all, though, is that bird decided to stick around instead of hightailing it out of here like all the other smart birds. I know that's one thing I've always been very jealous of when it gets wintertime. Birds, I've always said birds are smarter than people because they leave. We're still here. It's bitter cold, and we're still trudging along. Polar bears, not polar bears. What are the bears that hibernate? They're smarter, too. They just sleep it off.
Bears, right?
Which one?
Brown bears?
Brown bears. It might be the brown bears. Yeah, they sleep. That's what I want to do. I just either want to sleep through winter
Curl up
or I
in a
want to
nice
get the
warm
hell
hole.
out.
Yeah.
So story 1, actually, speaking of the cold and speaking of birds, has to do with a penguin that was discovered, the fossil of a penguin that is so large it is the size of a Pittsburgh penguin. That's right. This penguin is equivalent to the size of Sidney Crosby, the Penguins captain. And they discovered it in New Zealand. It says fossils from New Zealand have revealed a giant penguin that was as big as a grown man, roughly the size of the captain of the Pittsburgh Penguins. The creature was slightly shorter in length, about 20 pounds heavier than the official stats for hockey star Sidney Crosby. So there is a bird out there that was the size of Sidney Crosby, and it was a penguin indeed. So
even nature's cutting corners to save money.
That's right. So there you go.
Everything's getting smaller.
Everything is. You know what? It's weird. I was talking about that. If you think about it, like humans, we're kind of small compared to what used to exist. Like with elephants and dinosaurs and things like that. And the elephants, unfortunately, are dying off partly because of us, unfortunately. Mm-hmm. But dinosaurs didn't survive. The big creatures are like the first ones to go. And if you think about it, they always say that it's the cockroach that will survive the nuclear holocaust.
We know that the human race has gotten bigger and bigger and bigger over time.
That's true. That's a true point as well.
If you've ever sat in the old theater seat.
Yeah, that's a good point.
There's your evidence right there.
What's amazing, though, is what's really weird about that is humans are growing and getting bigger, but our houses are actually getting smaller in some ways. Like the ceilings, like if you go into like an old 100-year-old house, like the house I grew up in it's a beautiful house. It was built in the 1860s, and the ceilings are like, looking at this studio, probably not twice as big, but like considerably bigger, much bigger.
I think that had to do something with like heating the house and there being generally, bad chimney workings. You end up with smoke in your house. So you need
okay. Because I live in a
educated guess.
That makes sense.
Old house too. Mine's 1892.
Yeah.
And the ceilings are like chandelier high.
What's so amazing is about this old house that I grew up in, though, is we look at it now, and I can't remember how much my parents bought it for when I was a kid. I don't live there now. It's back in North Irwin. But the house now would be, lower to middle class, just because it's such an old house and in the way it was, it was constructed well. Obviously, it's lasted almost 200 years. Mm-hmm. But back then, that would have been a wealthy home. It had a yard on both sides of the house, a front yard, a backyard. And if you think about it, in the 1800s, most people had the row houses. If you had any kind of yard like that, you were doing pretty well. They had an alley behind the house, and they had this beautiful view, this huge front porch, and this beautiful view of Irwin, the town in front of it. But nowadays no one sits on a porch anymore. And that's one thing I miss the porch sitting, not the back porch, but the front porch sitting, where you could sit there and talk to people when they go by and things like that. And
I still do that, like when the weather's mild enough. I'm like, we're allowed outside. The weather's not trying to kill us.
Well, that's one thing.
And I have
when I moved to the place I'm in now, here in Millville, I'm on one of the main drags, and I have one of those porches. Millville could be a little bit too cozy sometimes, though. People will just come up and sit on your porch that you don't even know. So, yeah, it could be a little bit too much. But yeah, the porch, I think what killed the front porch was the television. I really think that killed the front porch, because now, people used to sit on the front porch for entertainment. Now people just sit at home on the couch for entertainment, and they go to the porch to get away from people instead
Internet,
of
Facebook, all that stuff.
Yeah. So I don't know.
Books.
I'd like to bring. Well, books existed back then, though. You could sit on the front porch and read a book, and then see, that's a good thing. And then when somebody comes up to talk to you, then you can be like, oh, well, I'm reading this great book right here,
Yeah.
The Rogue Mountains, and then you got a sale. See,
Yeah.
word of mouth.
TV came, bottom fell out.
Yeah. So, a stolen Ferrari that was trashed. The man was caught because he was begging for gas money. So he stole the Ferrari, and he didn't have the money to fill it up with the gas, and he got caught stealing this Ferrari by asking for gas money.
Should have stole a Prius.
Yeah. See, he would have been in better shape then. So we've got that, and then the third weird story, and this is the one that I really found to be somewhat interesting. UPS offered a refund to somebody for it's a $32 refund, and it sounds nice. They lost the package. They offered them a refund. However, the package contained a nearly $1 million inheritance check.
I read about that. Yeah.
Yes, so they offered them a $32 refund to cover the $1 million inheritance. So that is your weird news of the day. Yeah, you look
Sorry,
shocked.
that's just gonna hurt for a lot. Like the idea that that's.
I would kill for like $1 million.
I just want to wipe out my debt and not worry about bills.
I want to wipe out the debt.
Extravagant, just actually pay college debt.
I'm sure they've
and-
lost the package too. I'm sure they don't have any scanners that can basically see what's in the packages, and some unscrupulous person manning said scanner.
I don't know about UPS, but I know someone who works at the post office, and they have informed me that they can't see any of that stuff at the post office.
I
So.
thought those little strips inside the bills were for, so they could. So
Strips inside the bills?
yeah, they put those little plastic strips inside the.
I don't even know
In
what that
money?
is.
Yeah.
Oh, no, that's just so you can't, print it. Anti-counterfeiting stuff.
I thought it showed up in X-rays and stuff.
Yeah, no, mail tampering's like a federal crime. That even just a little bit of that will send you to jail.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're that strict, but they. But yeah, so these people, I don't know. I'm guessing they can hopefully they can reissue them their check, because with $1 million, I would be able to quit my job and just do this full time, which would be wonderful, and start to expand. I could be my own investor. Could you imagine
Incredible.
that? That would be
Yeah.
incredible. Yeah,
Sure would, Brian.
but I would still relish in the fact that I have Han Funeral Home backing me. So they are they're awesome. They're cool. They actually they do some really interesting things. They were part of the Yuletide tour this year, which is where you go around to visit the different businesses.
That's awesome.
The funeral home, yeah, they were part of that. So they're
Well, I have to really appreciate the sort of taking something that most people think of as being very dark and don't talk about, and being like, hi, we want to be a part of a community. We are offering you season's greetings, and there can be joy
I believe
in
I'm
things
gonna
like
say
that. There has
season's
to
tickets.
be season tickets to the funeral.
You know what? But aren't we getting to that point now? I upset someone the other day. I was at a diner on the north side, and they had a funeral home of that police officer who was killed out in Westmoreland County. And I said, who watches the funeral home of someone they've never met? I said, isn't that creepy? And the guy was all offended. I said, I'm not happy he died. I feel bad the guy died, but I didn't know him. I don't even go to the funeral of some people I do know unless I'm really that close to them. I'm certainly not going to watch it on TV. I said, it's like watching a football game. It's this guy's funeral home. And then sure enough, I'm sitting there with my friend, and he's going, oh yeah, that music. We used to play that, at my church. And it was basically, we were going through a play-by-play of the funeral that we were watching on TV. How are you giving someone any respect by
publicizing
treating it that way? Yeah, I just thought it was really, really
Worst episode of
bizarre.
MST3K ever.
Yeah. And I say that, but we actually did stream a funeral once here, but it was for a mannequin, so it was
okay.
yeah. But we did stream a funeral at the funeral home, so
All right.
Well, let's completely change subjects and
Sure.
let's.
We can always come back to that.
Real quick.
Yes.
Well, I was trying to put a comedy show together for Comcast On Demand like forever ago. The Cellar Dwellers, improv comedy, Rochester. Check them out. Anyway, so I'm like soliciting sponsors and everything, and I thought about soliciting a funeral home sponsor, and then I was trying to come up with they never bit, but. Remember trying to come up with like little like commercials for them or whatever in my head, and thinking like, how do you make it funny and also respect? I kept coming back to this unfinished joke about like if you're dying on stage, you know.
Oh, absolutely. We were talking about the other day. We were talking about how this area was a hit zone for the Soviet Union during the Cold War. And I said, if somebody nuked Pittsburgh, what would people do who had family that lived here, because they wouldn't have that family funeral home touch of Hans to rely on. They would be obliterated in the blast. So then they'd probably have to go to some corporate, cold-blooded, heartless funeral chain to take care of those arrangements, and that would just be a tragedy.
Yeah.
So, yeah, no, I get it. So, I think you could come up with some good stuff. You're a writer, right?
Yeah.
The Rogue Mountains. You had a big party at the bookstore, which was rated #1 bookstore.
Yes,
in
9
Pittsburgh.
stories in
Yes.
Lawrenceville. Yes.
Unbeknownst to you.
Actually, we had the official release party was at Pints on Penn.
I was
Oh,
there for
okay.
that.
Oh, so I wasn't at the official one. I thought I was at the official one.
Sorry. You were at,
No.
I don't know if it was our first signing. I think it was our first signing.
Okay.
We
It was your
did.
book release and signing party and music friends
It was just a book signing and release shindig.
party.
Very
Kind of
cool.
deal,
Well, that
yes.
was fun. So, we have Josh Tarquinio here in studio, writer
That's me.
of The Rogue Mountains. And tell me about this book. This book is a book about there's a variety of stories in the book, correct? Is that
Yeah. Basically, if you're a fan of Supernatural, you will probably like this book. A lot of it centers on a monster hunter who's come to help this town with its infestation problem. It also deals with heavily with a girl in the town who's grown up in the town, who's pretty much never known a world where monsters didn't exist, and she's getting a little tired of it. And then it's all wrapped up in the theme of what is man's place in nature, whether or not there is a god, because nobody's sure, just like ever.
Is there a conclusion? Did we find these answers out at the end, or is it something that we have to?
There are indications made.
Okay. So with the monsters, are they like they terrifying type of monsters?
Yes, they're monsters from it. The way it is 20 years before the start of this story, all the planes of existence opened up on Earth, with Pittsburgh at the epicenter, for what was expected to be the end of days, but turned out it wasn't as big of a deal as everyone thought it was. It ended up being more of a change than the end. So the battling ended, and there's all these creatures and beings from all the different planes of existence stuck in the physical realm with humans. And
So this is kind of like multi-dimensional in a way. Is that?
no, dimensions would be a different thing. And then one of the characters explains that too a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah. A dimension would be like a different sort of. No, I'm not even going to get into that. Planes of existence is kind of like.
Almost like spirits in different.
Yes,
Like you don't see them, but
exactly.
they're there.
Like we exist in the physical realm.
Uh-huh.
Ghosts exist on the ethereal plane, but heaven and hell would be like on the astral plane. They're like another level
Okay.
up. And then there's a sub-physical plane where the trolls and fairies and gnomes and all these mythological creatures that you hear about people seeing but never able to catch. That's how I explain that. They live on the sub-physical plane and they can kind of switch back and forth at will. And then there's a theory that there is a hyperphysical plane too, which would be like where aliens would travel through hyperspace or whatever, or something like that. But I haven't quite gotten into that yet.
So basically, all of these different planes in this book, they're all existing on the same plane? Is that?
Right, exactly.
Okay.
Like where you're standing right now, there is also an ethereal side, a sub-physical side, an astral side. and everything. And it's really all it is it's not like angels are up in the sky somewhere. They're here.
They're here, yeah.
But they come
And I
and go
imagine
when they want to.
through the book, there's going to be some odd interactions between these different.
Yeah, most of it deals with the sort of the lesser creatures from hell that escaped into the wilderness and are living in the mountains and terrorizing the people of the village because they're essentially predators that were bred to torture and kill humans who were bad in this life and ended up in hell or whatever, or however it ends up that lore works, because the way the other side works is never clearly described.
Okay, but what if someone is good and they wouldn't have been going to hell? Are they still subject now that they're all on the same plane of existence?
Actually, according to my lore, nobody goes to hell.
Oh, okay.
There's just you die, your spirit crosses to the ethereal, essentially becomes a ghost. The light comes around to bring you to the astral, where nobody knows exactly what that is. Could be heaven, could be a soul recycler, could be a
restaurant at the end of the universe.
A restaurant at the end of the universe. Could be anything. So.
Very cool. It's very interesting. So, how long has it taken you to write this book?
That book took a year to write the meat of, and then another 6 months to edit.
Was there a lot of processing that went on before you started putting pen to paper?
It kind of grew out of a short story that I wrote for my girlfriend, Alyssa Heron, who also has a book out, Drowning Above Water. I think you're going to be talking to her.
She's going to be on the show in the near future in January. Yeah.
Fantastic. So yeah, I had written a short story just kind of based on a couple of things she had told me about herself when we had started dating. And, she had told me she's an actress and everything. So I just kind of wrote this little short story that could have been parlayed into maybe a play or a short film or whatever. And then it was kind of Twilight Zone-ish. It had a lot of weird, unexplained things that I didn't even explain to myself. So as I sat and I started to try to figure out how to justify all those weird happenings, I ended up with sort of the background for this book. And then it just kind of grew and grew and grew. And I thought it was going to be about this one character, and then I had to add another character, and it ended up being about her.
Now, do you just start writing, or do you do a lot of stuff in your head? Like I used to do some writing, and I'd love to get back into it if I ever get a chance to sleep. But I would process kind of the entire story in my head, not completely, but almost like an outline, and I would have an idea, and it would take me a while of doing that, and then it would come out on paper. And even when I write short bits for the show, I'll be thinking and mulling it over, I don't know, for an entire, even if it's just like a single page, for the entire day, and then literally in the last 10 minutes, just boom, I write it. How do you operate? Do you just start writing and then you go back? Or do you...
it's like I tackle it a bunch of different ways depending on what my goal is. I've rolled some Rory story cubes, and do you know what Rory story cubes are?
No, I don't.
They're dice that have little pictures on them, like vague pictures, like a smiley face or a picture of the globe, or a scale, or a gun, or a body outline, or something like that. And you just roll them. Or magic wand. So I rolled a few dice while I was at work one night, and I was like, I'll write a story about this. And I actually ended up writing a pretty decent short story called Zarin the All-Seeing. I wrote it on my phone directly into a Facebook post, and it took all damn night. I don't recommend anybody ever do that. And I won't be doing that again.
So now you've got carpal tunnel.
Yeah. But, I wrote that one off of a throw of the dice. Sometimes I'll just have, an idea, like a cool-sounding line will pop into my head, and I'll immediately be able to see the person who says that line. And I'll start the story with that line and just kind of go from there and just start almost free-flowing. And another one that I'm trying to write right now, it's one that has a direction that I want to go in. I was just like, okay, I want a Frankenstein type story, but I want to approach it from a different way than Shelley did. So how do I do that? How do I make it different? Okay, well maybe there's this other guy who actually is commissioning the creature to be built or something like that. So that's more of I gave myself a vague outline and then wrote up the character bios. I'm like, so how would the narrator who is one of the characters in the story write, or why would he be writing? Maybe he's writing a journal entry. Okay, cool. So, yeah. And he's super smart because he's super old, so he's got a ridiculous vocabulary. So all my sentences are really long-winded in that story, compared to, another story that I've written that's by a simpler character, and his sentences are kind of short, and his language is kind of not as eloquent.
So you've gotten this written, and you've got the book. It's a beautiful-looking book too.
Thank you.
What's what's the next step? Because I imagine it's harder. I've seen you go out and you've read from the book different places. Is that the way that you try to bring people in to buy it?
It's one of the ways, and go on these amazing talk shows and stuff.
Yeah.
I threw a lot of money at Facebook. Excuse me. I threw a lot of money at Facebook for the majority of my marketing and advertising, and it didn't go as well as I thought it was gonna.
Facebook about 2 years ago was really, really good for marketing, and you could spend $5 and reach an obscene amount of people. And basically, I guess it was too easy. They were trying to hook people onto the advertising, and once they had you hooked, they kept making it less and less effective. Yeah. So, because I used to go in and
how are you going to know, right?
Yeah, exactly. Because I used to go in and just spend $5, and I would reach like a ton of people. And now I'll spend $20 and not even reach a fraction of the people I used to reach with $5.
Yeah. So I kept throwing money at them the entire way up until the book released, and I was able to get up to 1,600 followers for this book. And then as soon as it released, I write a post, hey, the book is out, here's the link, go buy it, and everything. And then, the next day, 83 people saw this post.
Yeah, it's wild.
Oh, I can swear. What the fuck, Facebook?
Yeah, Facebook, it sucks. So it used to be really, really good. And I almost wonder if that's going to open the door for something else to come in. Because that was the thing, is Facebook was always a great way for somebody who is a small business owner, and as an author, it's kind of in the same realm. You're your own business that you're trying to sell your book, and it used to be a great way for those kind of organizations to market themselves in a way that they could afford. And now it's turning into to not
money
being,
grab.
Yeah, not to being the case.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Oh yeah. They're like, oh yeah. Hey, why don't you go ahead and boost this post for like $5, and we'll make sure a half a dozen more people see it.
Yeah. Me, I've got a million different pages that I administer to. So that's basically my entire timeline are just ads of Facebook trying to get me to buy ads on Facebook, whether it be for the River's Edge or the Business Association or the Development Corporation or the Metal Edge or the Music Festival. Like all of those pages are constantly trying to get me to buy ads, and they don't work anymore. They used to. I have more luck sharing appropriately and putting in the right tags than I do actually putting a boost out there nowadays.
That's organic growth. That's always more important.
It is, but I mean, when you're boosting for marketing, the whole goal is to try to bring in new people, not just the people that are already involved. It's good to get those people back, obviously, but
if you give us $20, we'll show your meme to a whole bunch of people.
Right.
Yeah. So cool. So you had your release, which I apparently was not at. I thought I was.
I'm sorry, man.
But yeah, I wasn't. I was at
the
first signing. So how did that go?
Which one? The release party?
Yeah, the release party.
The release party went great. Lots of mostly friends and family. I sent out handwritten invitations to members of the media, except for you. Sorry.
Yeah. What the hell?
Damn it, Josh.
But no media came.
I would have come.
But that was fine. I know.
I could have streamed it like I streamed that funeral.
I think I might have met you twice and talked to you once before that.
Yeah.
Before that happened. But but the party, it was a really fun time. I had all my musician friends come and bring their instruments, and a lot of my family came out, and I sold a lot of books that night.
Is it stressful trying to do the sales and marketing side? Because when you're...
Oh, yeah, I'm fully burnt out with it. I'm tired of it for the last, month.
That's the aggravating part on my side of things, because I do all live content, and it's like I got to come up with new stuff every week. But there's so much involved in the marketing end of any kind of creative act that I find myself spending about 90% of the time marketing and advertising and just doing operational stuff, and then 10% of the time working on the actual content and putting shows together and stuff like that. And it can be overwhelming when you're a creative person and this is what you want to do and this is where you live to do this other side of the business.
I hired a publicist as well, which I don't have any experience with publicity companies, so I don't know if I got my money's worth or not. It just seemed like they basically did the legwork for me in finding book reviewers who are not even guaranteed to review the book anyway.
Oh, wow.
So they were kind of like, okay, make sure you have 20 copies available. We're going to find you 20 people to send your book to. And then they found 20 book reviewers that were in my wheelhouse from around the country. So I sent one to like Arizona and one to Minnesota and just wherever.
Now, did you use the Publisher's Almanac? Don't they have a book out there that has like just a bunch of different publishers?
Do they? Maybe I should get one.
I had one.
You know what? I drastically overestimated how many physical copies I was going to sell. So I've got like 150 left in boxes in my room.
Well, we'll get it done. We'll keep going to the open mics, keep coming on, on programs like this.
Thanks, Brian.
So, absolutely.
Yeah.
No, I actually. How much is the book?
Book is at the moment $12.99.
$12.99.
Probably go up to $14.99 after the holidays.
Very cool.
But yeah, and it's available at 9 Stories. It's available at Mystery Lovers in Oakmont. Where else is it available? It's at there was one copy at Caliban Books in the fall. I don't know if they still have it. Probably do. Copacetic Comics in Polish Hill. And I feel like I'm forgetting somebody.
Well, the other day I was at the signing, and I didn't know I was going. I was just hanging out with a friend, and he's like, "Hey, let's go." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, that's great." So I didn't have any cash on me.
Thanks,
so I
Ian.
wasn't,
for listening.
so I wasn't able to buy it. But I have cash today. Can I buy a book?
Hooray! You sure can.
Awesome. All right, I'm gonna buy a book. So there we go. On air transaction.
All right.
So
Nice.
I don't know if I have
Don't tell the government.
6.
can we?
That's right.
So he's
There
pulling
we
out
go.
the cash. I'm handing him. I threw a $20 down on the table for those of you who are listening.
Through it.
Yeah, I
It
literally
sounded like a
tossed
20.
it.
You did.
Yeah,
I will take
tossed
your
the 20
book.
onto the table,
$13.
and he's got
Seven's your change.
$7 back.
There you go, sir.
I'm counting. He chipped me $1. No, it's still here. Very cool. So now I have a book.
Sign that before I go.
Can you read from it before you go?
I sure can.
Awesome. So we have Josh Tarquinio, who's going to read from the Rogue Mountains that I just bought right here. Oh, and he's signing it too. Are you going to sign it on air?
Would you? No, because it takes me forever to think of the message
Okay.
to write, and
Josh Tarquinio is not going to sign my book on
I
air.
only got so much time. I like to make them personal, so I like to think about them.
Okay. But you are going to read from the book right now.
Yes. Give me a second, because I don't prepare for these things. I just kind of turn to a page, and there it is.
And he finds it.
Does Joanna have a favorite part?
Do you have a favorite part of the book?
No.
She hasn't read it yet.
No.
That's good for having read.
Well, I like the fact that you have it on audiobook as well, right?
Yes,
Did you do the
That's
reading?
so cool.
Yeah, I narrated it, and Dan Yost from Just Records in Dormont recorded it.
Okay, because I may actually buy it there as well, because
Okay.
I am somebody, like, I work overnight, and I listen to podcasts and things like that all night while I'm at work, so it's actually easier for me to try to read a book through audiobooks than it is to
those
read
were-
it physically.
See, actually, me too. I
Yeah.
have your
okay.
book like in my coffee table basket. So when I read a book, I'm going to start reading it. But you can ask him. Like it will take me 2 years
Well, I just said
to
that.
read one book.
I took,
Yeah.
I took back 3 or 4 books I had just
Well-
today because I wanted to reread them.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, my
'Cause
thing-
I'm either in the car or with my daughter or doing work. Or so listening to things, I have a lot more opportunity than wait a minute. I can read a book, and it's really exciting for me to be able to read a book. It just it takes the right
Yeah.
storm.
Well-
So I'm really looking forward to it.
Cool.
Well, my thing is I work at a mindless job, so and I don't deal with customers, so I can literally just throw on a set of headphones and just listen to whatever for 8 hours straight.
There you go.
Yeah, those were great for overlands when I was driving all night in the RV, podcasting audiobooks. at
Oh,
nighttime
yeah.
were just the best.
Oh, it makes it, it is one of the nice perks about my job is I can listen to all of that stuff, and it is nice because otherwise you're just on the run so much, especially when you have to work a regular day job and you've got this side business like all of us do. It's hard to find the time to do anything for yourself, so it's nice having that job or like where you're driving or you're working in this tomb overnight where you can just zone out and listen.
Yeah. So. Plus, if you get the audiobook, you get to hear me make sex noises.
There we go.
So,
I would like to buy the audiobook.
And I'll tell you what, you hear actors talking about how silly and awkward it is to film sex scenes. Imagine, having to do it into a microphone, both sides, with headphones on. In your own ears.
I've had to do ADR.
There's just a dude behind the glass looking at you.
My tip to you is to close your eyes next time. It's the only way you can get through it with a straight face. Because I've had to do that for film, where I'm like, I'm not going to look at anyone. I just have to get myself to the place to make those noises.
To the next level, like they did on Appetite for Destruction when they recorded Rocket Queen, and Axel actually had sex with the drummer's girlfriend,
right?
And you can hear it on the recording.
Holy shit!
Was that chapter 2 again?
I remember that story.
Wait, what was that chapter? You were flipping through the book. 4. Okay, I thought it was 2, and I was gonna say if that was 2 again, because you already flipped and landed on the first page of chapter 2, and I was gonna say that might be a sign that we're supposed to hear chapter 2, but that was chapter 4, so that entire sign thing is kind of out of the...
Chapter
That's out.
2.
So we're finding part of the book to read from. He's flipping each page. See, I gotta pretend that there's nobody watching the video because we've got the podcast version.
I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. We've got the live stream. Well, it's not live, but the pre-recorded rebroadcast on Monday morning at 10 a.m.
I think I'm gonna go with the first part of chapter 1.
Ooh.
With Ariana and the Hunter Dyer. And Ariana's one of the main characters in the story.
All right.
She's the girl who's getting fed up with living in the town. Chapter 1. The woods were dead silent. Even Tempest's hoofbeats were muted in the dewy leaves, like she was tiptoeing. She'd been making these treks for about 5 years, since Ariana Coleman was 16. The human girl had the small town blues, among other things, got her kicks from ringing death's doorbell and running. Tempest was used to it, and if she'd been able to talk, would have said she enjoyed the thrill too. The sun, still behind the mountains, lit the sky enough to see, even in those woods where the leaves had begun to change and fall. Ariana preferred the dull blue glow to the contrast of a sunny day. In those woods, where death took many forms, every stark shadow was a potential threat. Tempest got that feeling, that innate sense of danger animals get when a predator is near, and she stopped. She stopped and gave a stamp, which she and Ariana decided a long time ago was her way of warning her human. Ariana stroked Tempest's mane and asked, "Where is it, girl?" The human held her breath and looked around, first for familiar shapes and then for movement. Nothing yet. The girl clicked her tongue, which was the signal, they had decided, to proceed with caution and be prepared to turn tail. Reins in the left hand, Ariana slid her right hand over the grip of her Smith & Wesson Model 19 on her hip. Tempest took a few more steps and stopped again. Ariana's fingers closed on the handle of her sidearm. An alarm went off in her bones. Ariana drew her gun as the Hunter Dyer emerged, shrieking from under a swath of leaves and dirt. Tempest reared, brandishing her hooves. Hunter Dyers most closely resembled carpenter ants, though they were only slightly smaller than men. They had 6 legs, and their bodies were segmented. Their abdomens were proportionally small, allowing them to walk and stand on their hind legs. Their thoraxes appeared to have human-like ribs on the outside. Patches of coarse hair grew randomly. Their heads contained a loose ring of 24 black eyes, a pair of fangs like a tarantula, a long, retractable middle tooth, and a needly tongue for extracting whatever the tooth exposed. Hunter Dyer was not the creature's proper name, it's just what everyone called it. Ariana and Tempest had seen and killed a ton of them. Shriek, click, bang. This time, however, as Tempest's hooves came back down, Ariana hesitated. This time she felt different. This time she felt like a bully, like she had just walked into the creature's home with the express purpose of killing it for no reason. That was exactly as it had always been. Why it bothered her now, she didn't have time to speculate. The hunter dire lunged. Tempest turned and ran without a cue from Ariana. They beat a path back across and down the hill. Though the monster gave chase, it couldn't keep up with the horse. It was far behind by the time they reached the fence. Ariana's nerves balanced on a pinhead as she dismounted and opened the gate. She smiled at the feeling as her hand shook on the gate latch. This was what she came for, the adrenaline rush. The hunter dire shrieked again. It had cleared the last hump and was on its way down to torture and kill Ariana and her companion. The girl threw open the gate and led Tempest through. The monster descended, kicking up leaves and shrieking every few breaths. Its movement was sloppy, as if it didn't know how to run. It was neither a crawl nor a gallop, but something in between. Its clawed forelimbs waved and reached, only touching the ground when it needed the balance. Ariana slammed the gate closed as the monster slammed into it, giving the girl a good look at about 10 of her own reflections in its onyx black eyes. It ran its tooth through the fence, reaching its limit an inch from Ariana's throat. The girl flinched and fell backward. This was an unusual situation for Ariana. Typically, she would have shot the monster when it first appeared and left it deeper in the woods. The fence itself was never meant to hold the creatures of the mountains back, only deter them from the areas where people lived. Ariana had never seen what would happen if the monster were given incentive to find a way over or through the fence. She wished the creature away as it rammed and beat at the fence. She wished for it to get tired and go away. Then she thought she might have to kill it anyway just to make sure it didn't come back. The hunter dire made her decision easy. It looked up, ran its forelimbs across the top of the fence, then began to crawl up. It got one more shriek out before Ariana blew its head off. The gunshot tapered off through the valley, leaving Ariana and Tempest in dead silence once more. The adrenaline sat in Ariana's veins like stale coffee in a day-old pot. She wondered if that would be the end of that thrill, one of the few thrills she had in her podunk, one-horse, middle-of-bumfuck-nowhere town. She opened the gate again and tied the rope from Tempest's saddle to the carcass. Couldn't leave Chum by the gate. Girl mounted horse, and they dragged the dead bug into the woods before heading home.
All right.
Grazie.
Josh Tarquinio, author of The Rogue Mountains, right there. You can see it. You can buy it. You can buy it in audio. You can buy it as a book, as I just did.
Available on Amazon as an audiobook through Audible. Should also be on iTunes, but I'm not sure. I haven't seen it there. But
iTunes is kind of a pain in the ass, isn't it?
Sure is.
Yeah. It's so difficult to get anything on iTunes because of the image. They want you to have like the perfect image, exactly how they want it, and they will not deviate or scale anything.
Yeah, for audiobooks, one thing that's nice about recording an audiobook is that you do it through a company called ACX, which distributes it for you, and they set the pricing and everything based on the length of your book. So it's nice because you can just upload it and be done, assuming you meet all the quality requirements.
Yeah.
And that's a nice thing too, is that they make sure that nobody's just putting crap up. And so yeah, Audible has it, Amazon has it now. Supposedly they also distribute it to iTunes, but I don't think I've seen it there yet.
Well, hopefully we'll see it soon. But anyways, you can find it at any one of those other places.
Available in paperback and Kindle, and what's the other thing? Kindle Unlimited, which is like Netflix for books, subscription service. And I think
really? Can you get that if you're a Prime member? I'm a Prime member.
Nah, it's a different thing.
Okay. I didn't know.
I think if you're with Prime, you can get like one or two Kindle books.
Well, I'm probably just going to buy it from, I don't know, Audible, because I think I have the Audible app on this cell phone. So,
all right.
Yeah, very cool.
Sounds good.
All right, so you can check it out. And you have a website as well.
Yes, there's www.theroguemountains.com, all one word. There's facebook.com/theroguemountains, all one word. And then on Instagram, you can see some of the concept art that I created for the book.
Awesome.
That's at The Rogue Mountains with underscores in between the words.
Very cool.
_rogue_mountains.
So, Josh, would you drink a drink that was bottled by a funeral home?
Sure.
He would do it. So I thought, since we have all of these creative people here, that we could maybe tell a story about the, I imagine it would be a juice that would come from a funeral home. Does that sound right?
Saying a juice came from a funeral home is a little suspicious. Saying a funeral home manufactured a juice?
Okay, yes.
It's a subtle change of words, but the second one seems like slightly less alarming to me.
So would you call it the
It's called
drink?
runoff.
Well, I'm thinking that. So I'm going to start a story,
Okay.
and we're going to go around the room maybe 3 times, 4 times. What do you think? Maybe 3 times,
Hey,
and
we'll
we
see
will.
when the story
we'll see when the
naturally
story
ends.
naturally ends. So I'm going to start it off, and then we'll just go around the room counterclockwise. I
Maybe
don't know
it'll
why I feel
evolve
like
into chaos. We don't know.
it may. So Jamie Hahn, owner of Hahn's Funeral Home, the only family-owned funeral home in Millville, went to her fridge one night and couldn't find anything to drink. And in that moment, she had an aha moment when she couldn't find anything to drink, and she thought, you know what, we need to find a true delectable juice that everyone will crave for. And the name came to her, the drink of the dead.
Yeah, the Drink of the Dead, she actually found out after trying to market it that it had been discovered in other various parts of the country, an underground community of bootleg, much like moonshiners, had run across this kind of a drink. So her first stop on the U.S. tour to find different locally sourced drinks of the dead brought her to the town of Pikeville, Kentucky. And in Pikeville, to find the local flavor, she found the cemetery that is there where the McCoys are all buried. And you crossed the valley and went up and met with the locals where they had in mason jars extracted much like moonshine essence from these McCoy graves. But the one kicker that they pressed upon to make sure that was the big selling point was much like you have various degrees of orange juice. They said Grove Stand always sold the best because it had all the extra pulp.
Oh.
Well, to the novice, the varying levels of pulp seem to be the varying levels of badass, inherited qualities from these long past notorious figures. The thing that Jamie was after, and that she only found out by researching with the locals that lived much quieter and much further up in the mountains, was the entire purpose of creating this juice was in order to make for a better and more peaceful passing. So the people that lived up in the mountains, they didn't want to disturb nature, and they also didn't want to disturb their relatives. And so what they had discovered was by ingesting this, it prepared their body to break down in a way that once the soul had left the body broke down in a way that became a part of the earth. And of course, there was a lot of myth. There was a lot of myth mixed into this, and of course, when the McCoys became a part of this, the entire ritual became a bit convoluted. But that was the original purpose for this juice.
So yes, Jamie thought that was cool. So she strikes a deal with the locals to get some inventory or whatever, and brings a whole bunch of the fruit back to Pittsburgh and to the funeral home. And, business was slow. What with all the health crazes going on, less people dying. So she's making the juice because she's got the extra space in the basement of the funeral home. And she starts bringing people over to taste it. Lots of, for focus groups. That's what it was, focus groups. Holds focus groups in the funeral home. Nobody likes the pulp.
Ooh.
So that's why Han's, what's it, Juice of the Dead?
Yeah.
Drink of the Dead? That's why it doesn't have pulp today. Because focus groups ruin everything. So.
Corporate funeral home owner, Funerals Are Us, heard of the new juice and how it was helping Jamie's customers, and they tried to come up with their own juice. Actually, they tried to steal her juice. They sent in a team of fakers, people who would go in and they didn't have a pulse, or they had a very low pulse, to try to trick Jamie into thinking that they were dead, so that way they could sabotage the funeral home and take the juice back to Funerals R Us so they could corporatize it and make a huge obscene profit off of all of Jamie's hard work. But little beknownst to them, Jamie had a trick to find out, and she tested on everybody that came in to make sure that that person was dead. Jamie...
What she did was basically... Oh, yeah. That's that kind of curveball. The test was she played a scene from Monty Python and the Holy Grail where they were singing to bring out your dead. And one by one, they couldn't help but quoting and sat up and said, "I'm not dead yet." So, left with nothing else.
Hey, that guy's trying to steal our juice.
They still were able to smuggle a few mason jars out, though. And when they took it back to the corporate chain, realized this wasn't selling because they say, hey, this tastes like corpse, like gross, disgusting corpse liquid. But then they had the marketing idea to just rebrand it and call it kombucha. And then that's where that craze took off.
Not sure if I can top that. Well, the kombucha craze, that explains everything with that. And also, no, that's Corpses R Us. But Jamie, because the pulp didn't work, then she made brownies of the dead, where the pulp could be incorporated in, and you got the most potent effect from it. So she is no longer pursuing a drink of the dead. She's still thinking about that, but she's been able to take all of the benefits and infuse them into very special brownies.
Yeah, stoners dig it.
Love that shit.
It's like, you don't get the same effects as pot brownies at all. It's just kind of like, people like the bespoke nature of the brownies, because you can't get them anywhere else. That's the kind of thing that you get at like, the Pittsburgh Public Market if it was still around, or the Pepper Farm Festival, or the holiday market.
Yes.
Down at Market Square. Yeah. So she went down to the holiday market, and Santa Claus tried it. The brownies.
He was jolly.
And he was jolly, and he dug it, and everybody's getting one for Christmas, a pulp brownie from Han Funeral Home.
And as Santa sat there chewing on his brownie, he realized that only Han Funeral Home, the family-owned funeral home in Millville, known for their green burials, would go through these extreme lengths to satisfy their customers. And he said, Merry Christmas to all, and a brownie. Have a good night. Thank you. Thank you to Joanna. Thank you to Jeremy
awesome.
and Josh. Thanks to Zach Fehl from Behind the Board. This was the last episode of 2017, which has been a fantastic year for myself. It was a real roller coaster this year. We had a crazy. We used to have that. It was just a crazy year. We had a guy who was a former commentator on the network who went crazy, and I had to go on KDKO for that. And then it was like we ended up getting all these ratings for it, and then the music festival happened, which was really just a wonderful high point in the year. And then right after that, our studio caught on fire. Yeah. And then the next day, we were asked to move here to Mr. Smalls. So the entire year has just been an up and down roller coaster. But it's been a really, really wonderful 2017. And if 2018 could be anywhere close to what 2017 has been, then I expect the River's Edge to really take off. And I hopefully we'll all kind of rise up as well.
Good luck, man.
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much for coming in.
River's Edge.
Thank you to Zach Fehl. If you're watching the video, we've got the Mike Sasson Show up next on the Facebook page. You can stay tuned, and at riversedgepgh.com/live. And if you're listening to us on the stream, we've got great Pittsburgh local music up next right here on Pittsburgh's Voice for Local Music, the River's Edge Radio Network.